On February 11, 1990, the scariest man on earth was down on his hands and knees, fumbling around the ring canvas for his mouthpiece. Mike Tyson was crawling in front of thousands of screaming fans inside the Tokyo Dome, his left eye swollen completely shut and his head spinning in deep darkness. The unbeatable heavyweight king was finally down for the count. The whole world watched in shock as the unstoppable force lost his crown. In that single second, the mask of terror fell off for good. Mike Tyson had built his whole career on making big men shake with fear before the first bell even rang. Opponents lost the fight in the locker room long before they stepped into the ring with him. But on this dark night in Japan, the magic spell was broken forever. The feared killer was just a tired man who could not find his way back up. The dark fall did not start in Japan on that cold winter night. The slow decay of a young king began years earlier when his old teacher died and left him alone in the cold world. D'Amato was the father figure who kept Mike focused and calm inside his heart. Without that strong anchor, the young fighter was left to wander in a dangerous storm of bad money and bad people. Without a real leader to guide his steps, the young champion was pulled into a wild world of fast cars, late nights, and deep pain. People took his money while telling him he could never lose a single fight. He stopped listening to wise words and started living like a king who could never be touched by real pain. His mind was slipping away long before his body ever slowed down in the ring. By the time he got on the plane for the 1990 trip to Japan, his training habits were a sad joke. Mike skipped his early morning road work and spent his nights staying up late instead of resting his body. He knocked down his own sparring partners easily, making him think he did not need to work hard anymore. He treated the big fight like an easy warm-up, unaware that danger was waiting in the shadows. Across the ring stood Tyson-Douglas, a man that almost nobody believed in. The betting odds said he was a 42-1 long shot with no real chance to win the belt. People thought he was just another easy target for the champion to crush in a few quick seconds. But Buster came to Japan carrying a secret power deep inside his soul that no one else could see. Just weeks before the big fight, Buster lost his loving mother, the person who believed in him more than anyone else on earth. The heavy grief tore his heart open, but it also gave him a wild kind of courage. He was not afraid of the scary champion because he had already faced the worst pain a son could ever feel. He walked into the Tokyo Dome ready to give every drop of his life for his mother. The bright lights of the Tokyo Dome burned bright as both fighters walked toward the center of the ring. The air was filled with heat and noise as the crowd waited for the expected quick knockout. Mike walked in like he always did, looking mean and ready to tear his enemy apart in one fast rush. But the energy in the room was shifting in a way the champion did not expect. The opening bell rang, and Mike moved forward to launch his famous heavy attack. But the old scary speed was gone from his legs, and his punches missed by wide inches. He moved like he was carrying heavy rocks on his back, throwing single big hits with no real plan behind them. Buster did not back up toward the ropes like all the other scared fighters used to do. Instead of running away, Buster stood his ground firmly in the middle of the ring and fired a long, hard jab right into Mike's nose. Time after time, the stiff left hand popped the champion's head back with a loud crack. Mike tried to bob and weave like his old trainer taught him, but his body would not answer the call of his mind. He was taking heavy damage in every single round. For the first time in his whole life, Mike felt the ice-cold weight of real fear inside the squared circle. He was getting hit with sharp punches he never saw coming, and his enemy was not backing down an inch. The big bully was getting pushed around by a man who refused to be scared. The seed of doubt began to grow fast inside the mind of the champion. By the middle rounds, the champion's left eye was swollen up like a purple plum, closing off his view of the coming hits. When he walked back to his corner between rounds, his team was in total panic. They were so unprepared for a real fight that they did not even bring a proper ice bag to treat his eye. They had to fill a rubber glove with cold water just to press it against his swollen face. That cold rubber glove showed the whole world how broken his team had truly become without real leadership. The men in his corner were yelling different things at the same time, giving him no good advice on how to stop the long jab. The king was all alone in the middle of a war, surrounded by men who only knew how to celebrate quick wins. Yet deep inside the 8th round, Mike showed why he was once the most dangerous fighter alive. He slipped inside Buster's guard and landed a massive right uppercut that exploded right on the chin. Buster fell backward hard onto the canvas, hitting the floor with a loud crash. For a split second, it looked like the champion was going to pull off another miraculous win out of thin air. The referee counted slowly while Buster lay on his back, staring up at the bright arena lights above. But Buster did not give up on his dream or his mother's memory. He got back up on his feet at the count of 9, wiping the sweat from his eyes and looking right into Mike's face. The champion had landed his best shot, and the challenger was still standing strong, ready for more war. That was the exact moment the psychological collapse was complete. Mike had given everything he had left in his body, and it was not enough to put the big man away. In the 10th round, Buster came forward with a 4-punch combination that hit Mike like thunderbolts. A final heavy right hand sent the champion crashing down onto the cold blue floor. The image of Mike crawling on his hands and knees, grabbing blindly for his red mouthpiece, became an instant icon of human shock. The man who once seemed like he was made of hard steel was now helpless on the ground, searching for his breath. He managed to push the rubber back into his mouth sideways, but his head was spinning too fast to stand up straight. The referee reached the count of 10 and waved his arms in the air to end the fight. Buster Douglas raised his hands high as the new heavyweight champion of the world, completing the greatest upset in boxing history. The Tokyo Dome erupted in wild sound as people tried to process the impossible sight they had just witnessed. The invincible god of boxing had been knocked out cold. Word of the massive loss spread across the globe like a sudden shockwave. News shows interrupted their normal programs to tell the world that Iron Mike was beaten. The illusion of complete power was gone in a single flash, opening the door for every other heavyweight fighter to believe they could win too. The sport of boxing changed forever in that single afternoon. The mental damage to Mike was much deeper than losing his shiny championship belts. His entire identity was built on being the scariest man alive, a human weapon that could not be stopped by any mortal man. When that idea broke into pieces, he lost the core foundation of who he was as a man. He walked out of the ring that night as a ghost of his former self. In the years that followed, Mike fought many more times. But the old magic fear was gone forever. Fighters no longer lost their courage before stepping through the ropes to meet him. They knew that if they could survive his initial storm of power, he could be pushed back and beaten down. The wall of terror he spent years building had fallen down into dust. The loss in 1990 exposed how fast a great champion can fall when he stops respecting the hard work of training. It showed that natural power and raw anger are never enough when you face a man with a real purpose. The lesson was hard and unforgiving, but it proved that the ring always tells the truth in the end, no matter how famous you are. Buster Douglas became a legend forever by showing the world that even a giant can bleed if you hit him back with heart. For one glorious afternoon in Japan, he put together the fight of his life, honoring his mother and writing his name in the record books forever. He proved that courage and love can break down the scariest monster on earth. The psychological collapse of Mike Tyson in 1990 remains one of the most human stories in all of sports. It reminds us that behind the muscle, the power, and the mean face, every great champion is still just a person who can hurt and fail. When the heart gives up inside, no amount of strength can save a man from the fall. Decades have passed since that wild afternoon inside the Tokyo Dome, but the ghost of that fight still echoes through every gym in the world. Trainers still use that fight to teach young fighters about the dangers of getting too lazy and losing focus on their craft. The memory of the fall lives on as a quiet warning to anyone who thinks they cannot lose. In the end, Mike Tyson's biggest defeat was not caused by a punch to the jaw, but by the quiet loss of his inner discipline long before the fight even started. When the mind breaks down on the inside, the body will always follow soon after. And that dark day in 1990 showed the whole world how fast a king can lose his mind and his crown all at once.